Uber. In the 21st century, every tick-tock of the clock matters, and waiting in lines for buses or taxis doesn't seem like a good idea. Uber Technologies Inc. thought of a way to make every tick-tock count and make traveling better. Uber was started in 2009 by Garrett Camp, Oscar Salazar, and Travis Kalanick. Welcome to Money Magnets. In this Uber case study, we'll learn how they reached the pinnacles of success and overcame a variety of challenges. We'll observe how they created an enduring brand that thrives in a challenging sector. So let's get started. Uber was one of the companies that was one of the first to embrace and define the concept of the sharing economy. Consumers and business people alike were given the ability to exercise more agency over modes of transportation for hire as a direct result of this development. In a nutshell, it is one of the most well-known and influential technology companies in more recent times. This success did not come easily or without a significant amount of prior strategic planning and labor put into it. There is more to Uber's success than simple good fortune or favorable economic forces over which they have no control. They are a wonderful illustration of how a brand can be both transformative and disruptive, and even how it can be sustainable. The ride-sharing service Uber has grown more rapidly than any other comparable company in the history of business. This remarkable progression has been driven by an organization of people who did not have access to automobiles. The initial responses to Uber's shortcomings were that the company's culture was flawed, that a shift in that culture was necessary, and that such an alter was both attainable and necessary. Given the company's success, nevertheless, Uber's culture developed quite rapidly. The success of Uber can be traced directly back to the company's culture, which cannot be examined in any way. Uber's early success can be directly attributed to the company's innovative spirit. This was made clear in its novel premise, which was to be able to call a ride from any location using a smartphone. It is simple to overlook the fact that only a few short years ago this wasn't even a possibility. At best, one can make a reservation for a ride with a nearby taxi or shuttle service, stand in line for a taxi at the airport, or try to flag down a cab on the side of the road. Due to Uber's foray into the murky world of ride-hailing services, the company was able to define innovation as its primary driver from an early stage. According to statements made by the company's management, the business will define itself not as some kind of new taxi enterprise, but rather as a technology company. To reiterate, this was inconceivable a few short years ago. In a time when people had to flag down a ride from the side of the street, Uber was a completely new product that entered the market. Through their smartphones, riders now have the ability to control their mode of transportation thanks to the product offered by Uber. As the company expanded, it ran into regulatory barriers that had been set up to support the traditional for-hire transportation industry, such as taxis and limousines. In response, the company made the controversial decision to embrace the role of an industry disruptor. How, though, could Uber beat the many taxi rules in big cities that made it hard for them to do things like pick up and drop off at airports? In an article for Forbes, Shark Tank investor Kevin Harrington suggested that the solution lay in enlisting the support of customers for their cause. It came to the attention of Uber that a significant number of its customers were dissatisfied with the way things were currently operating in the transportation sector. These users desired an improved experience and eventually became Uber's primary customer base. After that, they took on the role of advocates for the company in a variety of settings, helping it fight against outdated regulations. It was very astute for Uber to recognize and cultivate these customers at an early stage. The notion that Uber is a disruptor is now ingrained in the company's identity and brand as a result of the company's decision to place a high priority on providing superior customer convenience and service. They became a part of a larger socio-economic movement that aimed to transport antiquated industries in ways that were to the consumer's advantage. Obviously, Uber also needed to establish a network of lobbyists and other professional policy advocates. This was a requirement. They started spending millions of dollars in different locations, such as New York City. These battles are ongoing because regulated taxi companies have not given up the fight against Uber's expansion into their market space. To a large extent, however, Uber has prevailed, and in the process, it has made its innovative approach to disrupting an established industry an integral part of what the brand stands for to customers. It is impossible to write an exhaustive and accurate case study of Uber without first documenting the difficulties the company has faced over the past few years. Engineer Susan Fowler, who had previously worked for Uber and was now a former employee, published a blog post in February 2017 that went viral. She wrote on her blog about the toxic culture at the company, which included rampant sexual harassment and the cannibalization of managers by other managers. Because her post attracted a lot of attention, Uber made the decision to react by asking the law firm's Perkins Coie to conduct an investigation into the allegations that she made. Travis Kalanick, the current CEO and co-founder of Uber, has come under increased scrutiny regarding the culture of the company. The company came to the realization that in order to keep a sustainable brand in the long run, Uber needed to be honest about what it stood for. Was it the company on the cutting edge of innovation and progress, as the company positioned itself to be? The reputation of the company was on the verge of complete and utter hypocrisy, if not complete and utter ruin. If it turned out to be the brand that Kalanick had long maintained it was, then he had no choice but to step down. This was something that Kalanick and the management of Uber were aware of. There were a significant number of other employees who were terminated as a direct result of Uber's very public introspection. The most notable reason for the company's failure, however, was the presence of a poisonous culture that endangered its ability to survive in the long run. Out of the ashes of its previous self, Uber made the decision to embark on a massive effort to repair its reputation and reposition itself for the future. What could have been Uber's downfall was instead turned into a window of opportunity for the company. The new chief executive officer made it a point to communicate openly with staff members and integrate their feedback into all aspects of the company's operations. Some Uber executives even put themselves through the paces of driving for Uber in order to get a better understanding of what it's like to be a driver for the company. A significant component of the revitalized culture is an emphasis on the value of getting one's hands dirty. The executives are currently working to close the communication gap between the drivers and the employees working at the very top. In addition to this, it started a significant rebranding effort with the goal of achieving an approachable and forward-thinking style that embodied the best qualities of the company and communicated credibly with customers. Uber understood that good design was essential to providing a satisfying experience for its customers. This covered not only the more mundane aspects, such as the typeface that was used, but also the more substantial questions such as the tone of voice that should be applied to its marketing and communication endeavors. The rebranding effort that Uber has been undergoing, which included a massive initial public offering, IPO, in May of 2019, is not yet complete. The introduction of Uber to the stock market has been met with a variety of obstacles. The company has continued to run at a loss, which has caused investor confidence to decrease. The stock has struggled recently, due among other things to concerns about the viability of Uber's business model. Despite this, the Uber brand maintains its strength and recognizability, which is an asset that will almost certainly remain in the future. Uber is a company that cannot be compared to any other in any way, and its success is one that is difficult to duplicate. After all, not everyone is in a position to launch a brand new business that shakes up an entire sector and challenges authorities all over the world on the way to an initial public offering worth multiple billions of dollars. On the other hand, many of the lessons that Uber can teach other companies and startups are applicable to other businesses. The fact that Uber is so intent on putting its attention on technological advancement and innovation highlights how important it is to define a distinct brand strategy and messaging focus. The fact that they are able to accept the role of disruptor offers entrepreneurs who are working to challenge established business norms and outdated industry attitudes a glimmer of hope. The resilience of the company in the face of threats to its very existence is another source of hope for the future of the business. The year 2017 had the potential to be a disaster for Uber, but the company turned it into a positive by turning it into new opportunities, which culminated in an initial public offering. Determination appears to be the last and most important lesson that can be learned from this case study of Uber. Determination to strategize and plan with clarity and focus. Determination to stick with it through thick and thin, and determination to right the ship when things get difficult are all aspects of this final lesson. The tenacity with which Uber pursues its goals is, in many respects, the fundamental principle with which the company's brand is most closely associated. This determination is also what proves to be the most valuable lesson for others to take away from this case study of Uber. And that is it for today, guys. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get the latest updates about the freshest and interesting content that we keep posting.